Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for coming to today's Advertiser Breakfast. Today, we're going to walk through the life cycle of an affiliate program, from getting the program off the ground through to growing, expanding, and sustaining it over time. I'm Greta. I'm an account manager here at Commission Factory.
My name's Gary. I too am an account manager at Commission Factory.
And whether your program is just getting started or already well established, today is really about helping you understand where your program sits and what you need to keep it growing.
Now, before we jump in, we want to quickly show you what the next 45 minutes will look like. First, we'll help you identify where your affiliate program currently sits in its life cycle, whether you're getting started, growing steadily, or maybe feeling a little stuck. From there, we'll talk through kinds of tactics that actually move the needle, not just theory, but practical ways to grow, diversify, and optimize your program in a sustainable way. And finally, we'll leave you with a clear blueprint for what comes next, something you can take away and apply to your own strategy straight after today's session. The goal here is really to make this practical, relatable, and hopefully give you a few ideas you can immediately put into action. But before we start, we want to hear from you. Every affiliate program in this room is going to be at a slightly different stage, and that's completely normal. So before we begin this session, we're going to ask a couple of quick questions just to get a feel for where everyone's at and what challenges are top of mind. Feel free to raise your hand, drop your answer in the chat, or just jump in, whatever way feels easiest for you. So let's start with the really simple one. Where would you say your affiliate program sits right now? Maybe you just launched and still trying to figure things out. Maybe you're seeing some growth, but still feels a bit inconsistent month to month. Or maybe performance is actually pretty solid, but growth has started to plateau, and you're wondering what the next step looks like. And honestly, if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not actually sure, that's completely okay too. That's exactly what this session is designed to help you with. Take a moment and choose the option that feels most accurate for your program today. Alrighty, next question. Imagine most of your affiliate revenue is coming from one or two publishers. On the surface, they can actually look healthy, especially if the numbers are strong. But what do you think the biggest risk is here? Is it actually not a problem at all? Or is it the fact that you're becoming overly reliant on a very small number of partners? Maybe it's limited diversification. Or maybe it's that over time you lose a bit of control over your growth because performance becomes tied to someone else's priorities. There's no pressure here. Just take a moment and think about which answer feels most true from your experience. So the interesting thing here is the answer is actually B, C, and D. And this is something we see quite often. A program could look incredibly successful on the surface, strong revenue, good conversion numbers, solid partner performance, but underneath it's actually quite fragile. If most of your growth depends on one or two publishers, there's always risk attached to that. If they shift focus, change strategy, or reduce activity, your performance can drop very quickly too. I think some of you may still be managing the effects of Cashboard's closing operations last September. That would be an example of placing your eggs with one or two publishers. At the same time, without diversification, there's only so much room to scale. You're limited by the channels and audiences you're currently reaching. Sorry. And over time, it can also reduce your ability to really shape the direction of growth itself. That's why taking a life cycle approach matters so much. It's not just about growing fast, it's about building a balanced, resilient affiliate program that can evolve and scale sustainably over the long term.
Before we break down each stage, it's worth taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture first. A lot of affiliate programs launch with a really strong setup, but what drives growth in the early stages isn't always the same later on. That's why we look at the affiliate as a life cycle rather than a straight line, because programs naturally shift over time and priorities change and new opportunities come into focus. We see this happen all the time. A brand entering a new market might suddenly need a completely different partner mix, while another might need to diversify beyond the partners they're already working with. That shift is part of the life cycle. As we go through the next stages, think about where your own program sits today and whether this strategy still matches what the business needs from the channel now. Before we move into the first stage itself, There's one thing that sits beneath all of this, and that's the strategy. The strongest affiliate programs are usually very clear on what they're trying to achieve from the beginning, and whether that's customer acquisition, incremental revenue, or strengthening the overall channel mix. That clarity shapes everything that follows, from how the program is structured to the publishers you prioritize, how success is measured, and how optimization happens later on. Without that alignment, it becomes much harder to understand whether the program is genuinely performing well. It also helps shape how budget evolves over time, from validating early performance through to more planned investment as the program matures. Before building anything else, it's important to make sure the strategy is clear, because that's what creates a much stronger foundation for long-term growth.
So now we move into the first life cycle stage, establish. This stage is really all about building the foundations properly. And honestly, one of the biggest mistakes we see is brands rushing straight into growth before the basics are fully in place. In those first 6 months, the focus shouldn't be on trying to do everything at once. It's about getting live, building confidence in the channel, and starting to generate meaningful data that you can learn from. The first piece is building strong foundations. That means being really clear in your objectives from day one. Are you trying to drive new customer acquisition, incremental revenue, brand awareness? Because those goals will shape everything else, from your commission structure to the types of publishers you recruit. It's also about getting your campaign structure and tracking right early, making sure your internal team understands how the affiliate channel works so everyone's aligned from the beginning. The second area of focus is recruitment and connection. At this stage, visibility matters. You want to start identifying relevant publishers, building relationships, and getting your brand known across the network. And importantly, don't just focus on the biggest publishers. Building a healthy mix early on creates a much stronger foundation later. And finally, benchmarking and routines. This is where you start building consistency. You want to understand how similar programs perform, start testing campaigns and offers, and establish regular reporting habits. Because the goal at this stage isn't perfection, it's learning quickly, building momentum, and creating a structure that you can scale from.
Once the foundations are in place, the focus shifts from simply launching the program to growing it more intentionally. The first priority in this phase is to optimize and scale. By this stage, there's usually enough performance data to understand what's driving results, where budget is working hardest, and which activities can be refined and expanded further. That means testing offers, placements, promotional strategies, and using performance insights to scale what's already working. A good question to ask at this stage is, are we building a program that can scale sustainably, or one that's becoming too reliant on a small number of partners? The second focus is refining the partner mix. Many programs naturally become heavily weighted toward a small group of publishers early on, so this stage is about creating more balance within the channel. That could mean recruiting publishers that fill specific gaps, diversifying traffic sources, or bringing in new partner types that unlock different audiences and growth opportunities. And finally, the program starts becoming more strategic within the wider business. Rather than reacting to performance week by week, affiliate activity begins shaping and planning decision-making. Performance insights help identify growth opportunities, align activity with broader business goals, and build a more intentional long-term growth strategy. Overall, this stage is about moving from execution into optimization, diversification, and smarter planning.
Once a program reaches this stage, the conversation starts to change quite a bit. You've usually built a solid foundation, performance is more stable, and now the focus becomes, how do we unlock the next layer of growth? This is where expansion and innovation come in. The first area is expanding partnerships beyond your existing mix. At this stage, relying on the same partner types can start to limit growth, so this is the time to explore new opportunities. Working with tech partners like Upsell or Insider, exploring cost per click models like Linkbee, exploring influencer collaborations, or even entering new regions and audiences. It's about asking, where else could this program grow if we approached it differently? The second focus is re-engaging and optimizing. Because this program is mature, it's not just about adding more partners, it's about improving the value of the relationships you already have. This is where quarterly planning, revisiting benchmarks, and introducing things like tiered commissions can become very powerful. An example of this is setting up commission tiers by product category or customer type. We have that functionality on Commission Factory. You start becoming much more intentional about how you influence performance and ROAS. And then finally, advanced capabilities. This is where brands start investing ahead of the curve. Maybe that's upgrading tech and attribution, launching with new partner types like creators or mass media publishers, or building more sophisticated long-term growth strategies. And I think the key mindset shift here is moving away from short-term wins and instead focusing on sustainable growth. And that can continue evolving with the business. Because at this stage, the strongest programs aren't just reacting to change, they're planning ahead for it.
At this point, the program is usually well established with consistent activity, strong partnerships, and clearer performance patterns. The focus now shifts from accelerating growth to sustaining performance over time, while making sure the program continues evolving alongside the business. The first priority is to sustain and optimize. At this stage, strong programs become far more disciplined in how they operate. There's a bigger focus on measurable outcomes, reviewing publisher alignment, auditing underperforming activity, and making sure affiliate supports a full customer journey, not just short-term conversions. The second focus is to expand and evolve. Markets shift, customer behavior changes, and partner opportunities continue developing. So mature programs need to keep looking for new ways to stay competitive. That could mean exploring retail media, testing B2B opportunities, entering untapped audiences, or scaling through stronger tech integrations and attribution capabilities. And finally, program maturity becomes a major differentiator. The strongest programs build structured routines around benchmarking, annual planning, ongoing training, and regular strategic reviews. At this stage, success is less about reacting quickly and more about building and operating a model that can adapt consistently over time. Because ultimately, mature programs aren't static, they continue refining, evolving, and reinventing as the business grows. We've talked a lot about the life cycle conceptually, but what does this look like actually in practice? These are two really good examples of that. The telco brand originally built a really strong affiliate program through highly conversion-focused publishers like cashback, coupon, and comparison partners. These partnerships worked incredibly well for driving scalable acquisition and strong revenue growth early on. The fashion brand initially leaned heavily into cashback, coupon sites, and buy now, pay later, which created a really solid performance foundation for the program. For both brands, there eventually came a point where the existing partner mix could only take the program so far. The business goals started changing. For the telco brand, the focus became less about pure conversion volume and more about customer quality, trust, and long-term value. For the fashion brand, the priority shifted toward audience expansion and finding new ways to reach new customers outside of the existing performance mix. Even though both programs were performing well, the life cycle effectively reset because the strategy needed to evolve with the business. For the telco brand, that shift meant moving to a very different type of partner mix. The focus expanded into review sites, education-led campaigns, high-impact placements, and B2B partnerships, all designed to support trust earlier in the customer journey, not just final conversion. The strategy evolved from purely conversion-driven into trust plus conversion. The fashion brand took a different path. As the brand matured, the focus shifted toward audience expansion and diversification, reaching customers outside of the existing transactional partner mix. That led into more shopping content, greater activity, commission testing, and supplier-funded retail media campaigns. The objective wasn't just scale anymore. It was finding new ways to grow through different audiences and partnerships. The fashion brand took a different path as the focus shifted toward audience expansion and diversification, leading Over time, the program started evolving into something much broader than their original plannings.
So to bring everything together, the biggest takeaway from today is that affiliate success isn't linear. Programs don't simply launch, grow once, and then stay there forever. They evolve constantly as business goals change, markets shift, audiences change, and new opportunities emerge. That's why we look at affiliate strategy as a life cycle. At different points in time, your program may need to re-establish foundations, focus on growth, expand into new areas, or shift into long-term sustainability mode. And sometimes you revisit those stages more than once. And that's actually a sign of a healthy evolving affiliate program. There are a few things we'd love everyone to walk away with today. It's these 4 ideas. First, avoid the set and forget mindset. Affiliate is one of the strongest performance channels when it's actively managed and continuously evolved. Second, don't rely too heavily on a small handful of publishers. Diversification creates resilience and opens up new growth opportunities over time. Third, let data guide your decisions. The strongest programs use performance insights to shape strategy, not just report on results after the fact. And finally, always build for sustainable growth. Short-term wins are great, but long-term success comes from building a balanced program that can adapt as the business grows and changes. And really, that's what the life cycle approach is all about.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining this morning.